Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jake Freevald. I'm VP Product Marketing at Fulcrum, and I'm here with Zach McCormick, who's our CTO. And today we're going to talk about practical applications for AI, for water utility field teams. And you're seeing an example of that on the right, which I'm really excited, but I won't talk about yet because we're going to get to it shortly. I'd like to just start off by saying that one of the things we face consistently is that field teams often struggle with inefficient tools that cause more frustration than help. How often have you seen a guy like on the right-hand side of the screen here who's holding a laptop? It's really not designed for the field. He's got his phone out. He's doing all the things, right? And because everything isn't working together to make solutions happen. Fulcrum is providing a field-first platform that is able to boost productivity and streamline operations by bringing a whole bunch of things together. And that's what we're talking about today, is how AI fits in with that mix. We feel that it's just plain wrong, that critical field work relies on tools that overpromise and underdeliver, and we've seen that both with bolt-on tools from Office applications built by Office software companies and delegated out to field teams, as well as complex homegrown mobile apps that people build out because they need a solution somehow, and this is the only way they know how to get it. So instead of those two things, we're going to talk about how easy it is for Fulcrum to capture and share all the needed field data you've got faster, more accurately, and with less frustration, which is going to bring higher productivity for sure, better performance, better data, better margins, happier clients, etc. So with all of that, the way that we're going to talk about doing that is by showing a lot of exciting work that's going on in AI right now. And the first question I'd like to ask all of you is, are you currently using any third-party AI implementations in your field processes? There's a couple of reasons that we do this. We're looking to baseline, first of all, our conversation to the audience. If you're completely naive about AI, no plans to do it, then great. Let's make sure that we're talking at that kind of a level. If you're actively doing, you're just looking for new ways, new use cases for AI, that's worth talking about too. So that's one of the reasons we do it. And also, we like to talk to our audience about what might be important, something they might be missing out in their workspace. So based on that, we'll use it both now during the webinar, and we'll talk about it. We'll use it as follow-up information and inform our product development with it. So the four answers you see here: no and no plans to. No, but you've got plans to implement AI within a year. No, you're not really actively using it right now, but you're setting it up. You're actually actively engaged in projects that are designed to bring AI to the field. And the fourth is, yes, we're actively using AI in the field in at least one instance. So with that, Kurt, if we could close the poll, see what we look at here. All right, so no and no plans to is 43%, and plans to implement within a year is 30%. So I think for a lot of you then, what we're going to talk about here is going to be very useful because it gives ideas for how to make AI work pragmatically in a water environment. What are you going to be doing with AI that's going to help make you more successful? There's 13% each that are in the process of setting up, and 13% who are actively using AI right now. That's really interesting. I'd love to get questions from you at the end to talk about, or comments to talk about what you're doing, how what we talk about today might relate to it, and so on. So with that, hopefully you are seeing my screen. The agenda that we've got to walk through that is to first off start with a little bit of level setting about how Fulcrum fits, how Fulcrum works and how it fits AI into your field activities. We'll talk about some of the specific methods of AI. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on with AI out there, so we need to categorize it somewhat so we know how to use it effectively. We'll talk about some of the feature characteristics that can be determinative in how you decide to use AI within your organization. And then about halfway through, we're gonna have a demo. We didn't want to save it to the end. You'll see the magic as it's happening, and Zach is gonna take over at that point because I'm a marketing guy and I don't know anything. That's not true, actually. I could do the same demo. It just would be less cool than Zach doing it. Then we're gonna talk about the ROI calculations. There was some discussion about making sure that you understand how to get an ROI from AI, and payback period. Payback period is going to be a really important part of our discussion, because ROI is one thing. You can promise a massive ROI, but if it takes 2 years, what does that really mean for you? So payback period is going to be an incredibly important part of that discussion. Finally, we'll talk about why you need a platform. We'll wrap up and we'll do Q&A. Please, if you've got questions, be sure to include those in the GoToWebinar interface here so we can answer those toward the end. So with all that said, Zach's going to bow out for a few minutes until we get to his section, to the demo. Whoops, that's not right. There we go. Zach's going to bow out, and I will take over and then hand it off to him later for the demo. Let's talk about a process comparison between not using Fulcrum and using Fulcrum, and then we'll talk about how AI and field tech, we'll talk a little bit about that, how that changes things even further. We have a lot of water companies, either water utilities themselves or contractors who support water utilities, and a typical process for them is, this is before they use Fulcrum, is to get location information, probably from ArcGIS, drive to whatever it is they're inspecting. Let's say it's manhole inspections that they're looking at. They'll drive to the manhole, they'll look up the asset information. Frequently it's on a laptop or in a spreadsheet, something along those lines, because that's the way it was pulled down from ArcGIS. And then once they've looked up the asset information, they'll perform the inspection, whatever that entails. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Once they perform the inspection, they'll also take some pictures. In this case, you take a picture that could be on your phone, could be on a dedicated device. It's not enough though to take those pictures, right? You've got to actually synchronize that. What do I mean? I mean, you take the link from the picture that you took, you upload that to Dropbox, you take that link from there, and then you plug it into the spreadsheet that indicates where that inspection took place, right? So there's a lot of synchronization that has to take place before you leave the site to make sure it's actually being done correctly. And then you drive to the next manhole. So there's a fair amount that goes on just during the day. And that doesn't count the stuff that happens at the end of the day when the person who's just been out for 8 hours doing the inspection processes now has to go home and do additional data cleansing, do some additional checking, make sure that all of the information they've got is the right way, and then load that up into some other system, right? It's usually some kind of spreadsheet that gets processed and that gets uploaded to some kind of management system. So it's a very complicated process with a lot of individual steps. With Fulcrum, you drive to the manhole, the location information is already there, the asset information is already there, the ability to take pictures and stuff is already there. All you need to do is perform the inspection. So there's no dedicated step to take pictures and reconcile them, for example. They're just part of the record of your inspection. And then you drive to the next manhole. That's all there is to it. So obviously when you can shorten a process like that, you're going to get more work done in less time, you'll get more accurate data, and you'll get less reconciliation. And the individuals who are doing the work are going to get less frustrated because they're just easier for things to manage. But I'm kind of simplifying things, oversimplifying things a little bit when I say perform inspection. Let's see why. So if this is your current field process with Fulcrum, but I'm not talking about using AI yet or any kind of field tech integration. I'm not talking about adding in sensors. I'm not talking about adding in the field technology that we use to simplify our jobs out in the field. If I'm not doing that, then the person who is out in the field has to first open the form in Fulcrum. They may type in the weather. It's kind of warm and sunny. They'll pick at, this is obviously not manhole inspections right now, but they're looking at a pump. They pick a pump manufacturer from the list. They type in the model number with 2 thumbs, opportunity for typos. They pick the voltage and the amperage from a list. Pick lists are always better than typing if you're going to do this kind of thing because it standardizes the data more effectively. They may type in some condition of information, comments, that sort of thing. And then when they are all done, they will manually set the status of that inspection from inspection required to complete. When we talk about adding in field technology and AI, things get incredibly much simpler. And this is what we're going to show. These are the things that we're going to demonstrate for you during the rest of the presentation. When you go out to perform that inspection, yes, you still have to open the form because you got to start the process, right? But you can automatically call a weather service in the background. Now, that is very light. You can barely see it because the user doesn't have to think about that. It just happens. The more you can integrate technology into the field platform, the more magically effective things can be. So this happens all the time. You open the form, gets the weather information, and instead of it's kind of warm and not too cloudy, it says it's 72 degrees and cloud coverage is 70% or whatever it may be. So you get all that very precise information without doing the work. Then you take a picture of the nameplate that's on the pump that you're trying to look at, and it will automatically pick up all those other things that you would normally have to type in with 2 thumbs and make mistakes with and all those sorts of things. You're going to see that happen today. Then you're going to dictate conditions, comments, and status. Instead of having to go to each field individually and type in the things, you can sit there and talk, and you can be looking at the equipment while you're talking, so you're much more effective and fast than you would be if you had to sit there and look at something and then type with 2 thumbs, and look at something and type with 2 thumbs. So you can dictate that information into it, not just one field at a time, all the fields that are related to the form that you're in, and get the job done extremely quickly. It's magical to see, and that's what you're going to see today. Obviously, if you can get rid of all of that typing and picking and looking up and looking down and looking up and looking down, then you're going to have even more possibilities that you could do, because now things are happening that wouldn't have been possible if you didn't have the ability to capture that information quickly. You're going to reduce the amount of time it takes. You're going to have actually fewer errors. AI is not perfect, and we all know that. And one of the skeptical responses we get is, well, if I take a picture, and I have to fix it, then it doesn't save me any time. But that's actually not true for the most part. If you take a good picture, then you can capture maybe 15 fields. If you have to correct one of those, you're still saving a lot of time. And guess how often, when you're taking information off of a nameplate, you're going to have an error in one field or more when you're just typing. It's actually a significant improvement. And again, just less frustration. People feel like, okay, I'm getting my job done, I'm kicking along, and I'm highly productive. That makes them feel better. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. That's how we're going to be talking about how AI can improve your field work in the water industry. What it's worth doing first, before we see the demo, is to break out the various kinds of AI that we can use to improve productivity, right? So you're going to see a lot of things, and it could go by really fast. And if you don't know what it is you're seeing, then it might be hard to understand, why is this thing different from that thing. So I'm going to break it down from the most ordinary to the most, call it revolutionary, I hate that term, but the most exciting, say, uses of AI in the field. First, the one we're all familiar with, speech to text. It's built in, right? So you don't have to do this. If you click on the button in the lower right-hand side of your phone screen, and then it will light up this little icon, and when you're typing in that, when you're talking, that form, that specifically field in that form gets filled out. Generally speaking, there's no translation. It's generally speaking just your words going as is into that single form. And it's single field. I keep saying that because that's really important. One field at a time. And hold that thought, because that's radically different from what we'll show you later. Okay, so speech to text, built in, simple, just capture the words. Free form text only. The next one is some kind of embedded AI that's part of the application you're using. Now, there's not a lot of examples out there, but Fulcrum has one built in that's really simple. When you have a field app that has a picture in it, you can click this box that says enable face distortion, and immediately the photos that you take will be checked by an AI model that's running on the box, and will find any faces within the system and blur them. So that's been in production in Fulcrum since February of 2021. It's fast, it's accurate, and most importantly, because this is a privacy issue, right? You don't want blurred photos, you don't want non-blurred photos, you don't want clear facial photos to hit the server. You want that to be as isolated as humanly possible, and that's what happens with this. So building in a model into the product is also something that we've done. We're comfortable with it, and in this particular case, has been in production since 21. The next one is text extraction. Here, again, we've seen something like this. The model on your phone, your phone has a model like this built in. So generally speaking, when Fulcrum has done this, it's something where we take a picture, we check the tag, verify, you verify to make sure that it's what you want it to be, and if you verify correctly, it'll load up the poll tag. It's one thing at a time. It's generally speaking a little bit more simplistic. The nice thing about it is that it's built in on your device. It's simple because it's what your device already has. I promise this, I'm pretty sure this is the last poll picture you'll see, by the way. Everything else is water. And the next thing we'd like to mention is a photo-based object detection capability, right? So here, it's much more than what you just saw, where it looks at a single tag and extracts that single tag. Here, you take a picture, in this case, of a culvert, and if you have a model that's trained to do so, then each of those types of objects can be determined. You can see, okay, there is water in the culvert. You can see that there is that the culvert is made of plastic. And with that single photo, you can fill out multiple parts of your form. Now, This is challenging in many respects because you have to have a model. I'd be very interested in those of you who have done something like this before to talk about whether that was a complicated part of what you were doing. This has been kind of the cutting edge. It's been promised for a very long time. So naturally, Fulcrum came in and said, we're going to make sure that this kind of thing is possible. But we do find from our clients that because of the model building aspect of it, it can be challenging. So awesome for certain use cases, a little bit more challenging to set up, and therefore if you're brand new to AI or you're struggling with AI, it might not be the easiest thing you can imagine doing. Here are two places where we're really seeing a lot of excitement. They do use an LLM, so this is something you're going to use online. This is audio dictation. You click pause, or pardon me, you click record on your phone, and when you do that, you speak. After you're done speaking, all of the fields that you've talked about get filled in. There's a ton here that's amazing. You can speak and it will give you the comments as a free form text field, just like if you were doing using the regular text speech to text on your phone, except it fills in wherever the appropriate place is that you're talking about. But it'll also do things like put numbers into a numeric field. The contents and types of vegetation that you see up there are pick lists. So it will choose the appropriate item from a pick list, even though you spoke it and never even looked at the pick list yourself. So very powerful technique. This is something that's online using an LLM, and it's just magical to watch. You're going to see a full demo of that shortly. Similar to that is using a photo-based fast fill, again, with an LLM. This is different from the thing you saw with the poll inspection, the poll tag, because it uses everything that it can grab from the label. You take the picture. By the way, this is a crummy picture that I picked up off the web, and it's very blurry. If I were to expand this, it's really not a great picture. And I was amazed at how well it worked. I mean, again, like random marketing guy doing, hey, is this going to work? And sure enough, it just worked. You take the picture, the AI processes it, and after the AI has processed it, it will fill in the blanks on what all of those individual data points are. So instead of filling out one field at a time, you're getting a huge amount of value from it and saving a tremendous amount of time as far as people being able to, they can correct things if they need to, but they don't have to type in, if it's 15 fields, they don't have to type in all of those 15 fields. All right, so I've just gone through a number of things. I thought it would be useful to put some of the more important ones into this slide so you can see the criteria all in one place. On the left-hand side, you see the two that are working where they work offline. These are things where the AI model that gets built, you have to build a model first, gets deployed to Fulcrum in the field. When you use text extraction, for example, in the poll example that I used, you're using the device's built-in model, and you're configuring a data event, if you know what that is. If you don't know what that is, it's not a big deal. But basically, you say, okay, when I take this picture, I want you to use the model that's already on the device to capture that information, and I'm going to tell you exactly where I plug it in, right? So it's very, very specific. It doesn't take long to set up, but it's very, very specific, and it typically is used for single field text extraction. Okay, so that's the first item on the list. Computer vision that I showed you with the culvert, that is using a custom computer vision model. So that's the important thing here, is it's not built in. You have to build that somehow. You, a consultant, somebody has to do that. It also is very highly specific because it's related entirely to that very specific model that you're building. And therefore the effort for this is high. It's not hard to install. If you've already got a model, it's not a problem to install it, but the effort required to put to create that model is very high. Now, it's wonderful. I'm not trying to discourage anyone from doing it. If you already got that capability, then typically you're going to make it possible to fill in a lot of fields. You're able to fill in repeatables by using that computer vision model. Just recognize that if that's the specific use case you're looking for, yes, Fulcrum can support it, but it's going to be a harder push. Where we're really seeing our clients get excited is, oh, by the way, where it's crossed out, those are the things that our clients are saying, these are things that are stopping us from doing this. So you see the 3 lines in the computer vision, it's stopping them from doing the computer vision that they've been promised will work for a long time. Where our clients are really getting excited is this kind of fast fill using audio or photo, where you are using an LLM. We happen to be using ChatGPT. You can use another one, it's fine. but using the LLM because it's so adaptable. So it doesn't work offline, but so many of our customers are finding that in an urban environment or in a place where I've got good satellite coverage or whatever it might be, it's worth having that connection because it's so adaptable. You're going to see things today like the ability to change the form midstream and have the LLM just figure out that the form has changed and figure out where to put additional information. The setup is tiny compared to anything else where we've encountered, because it's really about configuration and making sure that your form knows what to do, and you're able to use it over entire sections of the form in the case of the fast fill with photo, or the entire form. By the way, the fast fill being used for certain sections is really a user requirement. It's not a limitation of the technique. It's just a user requirement. People say, well, you know what, if I'm taking a picture of this thing, I want it to fill out this section of the form that's related to the pump that I'm looking at. I don't want it to put anything else in any other fields, like just fill out this piece of the form. So with all that in mind, this is where we're going to focus a lot of our time. I think Zach is doing more than that, but we're going to spend a fair amount of time looking at our fast fill audio and photo capabilities. The bottom line here that we're focused on for these two is that you can be minutes away from the cutting edge of AI in the field, in pragmatic use cases, pretty much any use case. You'll see with audio dictation, for example, it fits pretty much any use case. So that's why those are so exciting to our customers and frankly to me, because they're just really cool to watch happen. So with that, I'd like to validate a little bit about what we just talked about. I'm interested in your opinions on what has slowed down your AI activity. You know, over 50% of you are not currently engaged in AI activity. So I'd be interested in knowing the things that have slowed down that AI activity. Is it that you don't know? And Kurt, I'm not seeing the poll question come up yet. If you are, if the issue that's stopping you is a lack of knowledge or expertise, there we go, in the company, you know, it's just hard to know what to do. The lack of practical use cases. Very often people say, okay, AI is a priority. How do we prioritize AI? And people look around and say, well, ChatGPT might be able to help us fill something out or write something or do corporate communications or something, like, I don't know. And so getting something that's really practical for the field is often one of the more challenging things that people have struggled with. That's part of the reason that so many people say, no, I'm not doing it now, and no, I have no plans to, because I can't figure out why I would ever want to do that. Hopefully you'll recognize that by the time this webinar is done. The third, takes too long to implement. That just would, if that's one of the major issues we see, then that'll validate the comments that we've heard from some of our other customers, where they say, you know, building that model is just what takes too long. I don't have the time to make that happen and dedicate it to only one use case, right? The fact that then I have to go out and build another model and another model and another model means I'm going to be rolling out things for years. And then finally, it could be all of the above. And if you say 2 out of the 3 above or something like that, I'm perfectly happy to say all of the above there. Just more than one is what's really important. To know that those are the things that have slowed down your AI activity. Hopefully we've had a little bit of time to fill that out. So Kurt, if you could bring that back. Looks like we have a lack of knowledge or expertise in the company is top with about 44%. Lack of practical use cases is about a third, which is about what I would expect. So that's not too shocking. Takes too long to implement was actually small. It was only 4%. I'd be interested in hearing from people about the ability to implement quickly. If that's really not an issue, then I'd be really interested in hearing about that. And then all of the above, which does of course include too long to implement, is about 20%. So really interesting. It does validate the fact that it's just difficult to find out what we should be doing. And hopefully after you've watched Zach's demo, you're going to know a heck of a lot about how to implement in the water industry. Remember that you have the opportunity right now to put questions into the interface here, and we'd be happy to be looking at those at the end of the discussion. So don't forget to do that. You can do it while Zach is talking. So Zach, let me get out of your way.
Hello, everyone. You want to make me presenter, Jake?
I think I already did, but let me double check. Yeah, you should be presenter already. Waiting to view Zach McCormick's screen, it says. The issue with having a really savvy CTO is that he does all this stuff so far deep down in the weeds that basic marketing stuff that's built for guys like me, that's more of a struggle. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, hopefully you guys can see my screen now.
Yes.
So I'm going to show a form here for a biosphere survey that I think demonstrates a pretty good mixture of Fulcrum's GIS capabilities mixed in with our generative AI using FastFill. So here I'm looking at the iOS device here. I'm going to go into the bioswale survey and create a new inspection record. And here, the first thing I'm going to do is outline the area of the swale. So I come in here and using our line and polygon feature, I can come out here and draw an area. And bear with me here because I'm using a mouse on a mobile device. So here I can close the area. So I'm making a polygon here of the swale area. And then once I'm done, and in reality, you can also use the record thing to record a track, so you can walk around an area to capture a polygon that way as well, which is more realistic real world use case. But here I'm just drawing it for demo purposes. So now I've closed that polygon, click done, and then I back out into the survey, and you can see it's automatically captured the area, square meters here. So then normally in a normal inspection, you would come in here and start punching in all of these fields, but here we're going to be using our dictation feature. So I'm going to speak a dictation here and we'll have it fill out the form. The depth of the swale is about 9 feet. The contents are mostly vegetation, shrubs, and trees. I don't see any standing water. The impervious area I'd say is about 1/2 acre, and the pervious area is about 2 acres. There's a lot of stinking litter around here, and I see a little bit of pollution over there. I think it's an oil slick. Also, the neighbors being hostile with an aggressive dog. Set the status to completed. And so now it's going to process that audio dictation I just did and fill in the form. So here you can see it set the status to completed. The record went green. It set the depth. I said 9 feet. It actually went ahead and converted that to meters because that's how we have it defined, and that's how our data model prefers the data to be entered. And then we also have some structured data here where this is actually a conditional field, and it set this choice field, but then also it actually extracted a multiple choice field. And I don't know if you noticed, but I said trees, and it even picked small trees here. So it's able to deduce subtleties and variances in the pick list and pick the right one. And then also you can see it also entered here 1/2 acre and 2 acres for the impervious and pervious. And then it also, using our calculation field, calculated the total drainage and capacity of the swale, and then filled out this notes here. And so one of the other things that we have this set up to do is to remove the vulgarity. I kept this demo PG rated, so we have it to strip out the stink in there that I said, and it's able to pull that out and populate the comments also. So you're able to do structured data, but then, you know, if you have something that's more free form like the comments, you can capture that and do almost a combination of, you know, typical dictation in a notes field, but also fill out a very complex survey using very structured data that is, you know, the reason why people use Fulcrum. And so that's an example of our dictation, using dictation. And the cool thing about this is that this doesn't require any knowledge of AI or setup even at all, really. By virtue of adding a field to the form and the survey form, it's going to be eligible to be populated using our FastFill. So I could add a new field and then just start using it. And it's also incrementally adoptable in that you know, you can still fill out this form the old way if you're offline or prefer to fill out other areas of the form using more manual methods. That's completely fine too. And you can just kind of come in and out conversationally with filling out the inspection. The next thing I wanted to show Also in audio, the fast fill is actually filling this out in Spanish. We have a lot of customers whose field workers, English is a second language, or they just prefer to use a different language. So I'm going to show Spanish here, and I've got a recording of effectively the same, nominally the same dictation. So I'm going to go ahead and play that back here.
La profundidad de la zanja es de 9 pies. El contenido es principalmente vegetación, arbustos y árboles. No hay agua estancada. El área impermeable es de aproximadamente medio acre y el área permeable es de alrededor de 2 acres. Hay un poco de basura y aceite. Agrego que el vecino tiene un perro muy agresivo. Marcar registro completo.
Okay, so I click done on that, and it's going to go through the same process, handling the dictation, and then come back. And you can see here it filled in the same thing, the depth the same. I didn't do a polygon on this one because I skipped that because that's not part of this. But you can see it also captured the same area, entered in Spanish, same thing down here, and it even converted the Spanish back into an English in the comments. So here we have combining a Spanish spoken audio into an English data schema and data model. Same thing here with the English pick list. So we can have Spanish input and English pick list, and the data comes across. And there's other methods if you want to display this in Spanish, you can do that too. We have other ways to do that. But the main thing here to see is just having the other language as input and filling in effectively the same exact result. And this structured data extraction is fully compatible with all of our reporting. So I can now print this off as a PDF and email it, and it ends up in a structured database in the back end, so you can query it. So all those things are happening, and it's not just this more opaque dictation in a text blob like you would do with the keyboard that we showed earlier. So that's the fast fill audio dictation. Now I want to show a demo of what we just showed with the photos. So I come in here to the photo fast fill demo, and I'll create a new record, and I actually have that photo that we showed. So I'm going to upload that photo, and it's going to process that photo, extract all the data, and I'll just show the photo in just a second here, so you can get an idea of what's in it. So it pulled out the manufacturer, the model number, and these other various fields. So you can see this is an example of the photo we were looking at, and with no training or no special knowledge of AI or computer vision, it's starting to populate this. And I'll show another one here, another example. The novelty here is in the adaptability. So here's another image that it's doing the same thing. It's going to extract the model number, manufacturer, and all of that data from a different manufacturer. This is also a pump device, and it's extracting the data in the same way. And this is something that the AI has not seen before, and we have not done any special training or configuration to do this. Just to show you kind of the adaptability and fluidity of this within Fulcrum, you can see here, this is the photo we're looking at, and this serial number here. Actually, I'll show this one other thing. There's this other data here that shows, this is other data that it pulled out of the image that we don't have data fields for. So I can look down here and these are things I could go and make a field for, and then suddenly it would start populating it. So I noticed that the serial number, and I really wish I was capturing that. So I can come over here to the web, and I can just say, let's just duplicate the model number and call it serial number. And we'll save that. And then we'll switch back over to the mobile device here. And we'll sync up that form definition. Then I'll go back in and I'm going to add the same record here, or the same image. And you can see the serial number field is right there. So it's now processing it, same process. And then when it's done, you can see it populated the serial number field. So I've gone from looking at an image, deciding I want a field, adding it, syncing it, and now all of a sudden I'm populating the serial number, and I haven't really done any really special configuration. And so this enables a lot of cool stuff because you can capture data on like this type of asset tag that you would otherwise never capture because it's too much work to capture some of this other details. But now you can capture some other details that you might not otherwise do it because it's already in the image. You might as well capture it. So you can build out a full digital version of all of the assets that are out there. So that is the demo of the photo fast fill. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to, let's see, hand it back over now. Stop.
So I am a bit of an AI skeptic. I think it's important, but I think there's a huge amount of hype that isn't necessarily realistic, right? And but when we can make this stuff happen, it's so practical, it's so fast. And I was telling Zach before the call here today that, last night I was trying to continue to put stuff together. I do the last minute webinar thing, and maybe sometimes it shows, but this time with no net, couldn't call Zach to get anything done if something broke, anything like that. I was able to make it all work. And just the fact that it does that, it's so pragmatic. The use case is so solid and it's so easy, just blows my mind. It's actually an amazing use of AI. What we'd like to do next is take a few minutes to talk about ROI and payback period. And the reason to do that is that very often people have a hard time justifying the adoption of AI. So it's worth talking about ROI and how you can calculate that to some extent, and also payback period, because that's going to be very important. So this will be one section, and then the last thing we'll talk about is platform, why this really does require a platform in the field to make it happen. So there's a bunch of ROI formulas out there. If you look at a lot of them, they're for financial services and stuff like that, so not exactly applicable, but they all have this basic form, and you can use this as your basic ROI formula. It's the bottom line benefit minus the amount that you spent, divide that by the spend and multiply that by 100. That's your ROI. So it's another way of saying that is for every dollar I give you, you got to pay me back and save me something else on top of that, right? So let's take our formula and put it up there in the upper right, so it's available for our reference. Let's just say, like, to use some, just to get some idea of what kind of numbers we might be talking about here. Let's say that we do 1,000 inspections a month. It takes about 7 minutes each, and we're doing this with 2-man crews. It costs me about $200 an hour. I recognize that AI-enabled inspections aren't going to be perfect. There will be times where it will not be able to capture some element, or you need to go and fix the element. That's one of the big criticisms we hear, right? One of the skeptics that the skeptics say is, if we have to go in and you take a picture and then I have to edit everything, then it doesn't work. But there's a lot that are going to be very effective, and we can reduce those inspections to 2 minutes each. Let's say I'm taking a picture instead of filling out 10 different fields on the form. That's going to save you a ton of time. It only happens 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, you got 10 or 15 fields, and you're checking them, and you have to make an adjustment to one of them, right? The number doesn't quite go in. There's a smudge on the label. There's something that causes that label not to be read correctly. In those cases, you do have to make an edit. Let's say that for those, you only save about 2 minutes. You're still, again, going to see a benefit because first, you're not filling out 10 fields, you're correcting 1 or 2. And second, you would already be seeing data errors if people were typing in with 2 thumbs anyway. They might autocorrect incorrectly, or they might or they might just make a mistake typing with 2 thumbs. It happens all the time, especially with serial numbers and things like that that are long and complex. So I think I'm being generous here when I say that it's 50% of the time, it's only going to save you 2 minutes. I still think it'll save you more than that. But given that, let's take that as a starting point. So without AI, you do the math, and that's going to take you 117 hours and cost you about $23,000. With AI, you're going to do half of them at 2 minutes, and that's going to cost you 17 hours only, and only $3,000. And the others where there is a mistake or something has to be fixed within your form fill, that's still going to take you only 42 hours and $8,000 approximately. If you do the math on that, this is the way the math was kind of designed, is it cuts your time in half. It goes from 117 hours down to 58. It goes from 23 down to about 12. So your time decrease for that month is very substantial. These people that you've sent out in the field to do the work have a week and a half more time than they had previously. You can decide how you want to allocate that time, or how you want to allocate or change your workforce up to make that happen. But you've got more time based on that AI activity, and your cost decrease is 50% as you're making it happen. So it's very tough for me to put together something that says, oh, well, here is the exact amount that you are going to save, because everybody's is going to be a little bit different. But given this scenario that I've just described, I decided the best question would be, well, how much would it cost? What would the amount that I pay for this service have to cost in order to make my ROI only 100%? Now, 100% ROI is extreme, right? That's a really huge benefit. But let's say that I only want to make it 100%. I'm not going to try to say it's 1,000 or whatever. Well, if the cost before AI was $23,000 and the cost, the AI-based benefit is about $12,000, and we need to think, can I now do this in a month? Like, does that change my thought process here any? But I won't get into that level of complexity. The ROI calculation looks like this, right? I did the math for you. The $115 isn't arbitrary. This is a number that I had to figure out. So I take the cost at $115 for this team to go out in the field, and I save them this much money, and my ROI is now just slightly over 100%. What it did cost me to have this impact? $115 per team. That's what it would have to cost me to get to 100% ROI. You want to get only 10% ROI? You want to do that math? Sure, it's $1,150 it would have to cost you, and I promise you Fulcrum's nowhere near that. So for every dollar that you gave to the software, the consulting, the setup, the training, the new devices, if new devices are important, whatever it might be, for all of that, if you give me, for every dollar that you gave me, I paid you back and saved you an extra $100, that's a huge, phenomenal benefit. I want to talk about payback period for just a second too, because this is one of the things that has stymied a lot of people in their AI adoption. It's not that people can't see that there's a huge ROI, they just don't understand when it's going to come back to them. So put yourself for a minute in the CFO's shoes, right? That CFO is thinking, I'm paying for your thing right now today. You're asking for me to cut a check to vendors, consultants, whoever it is that's getting involved. And I also know that I've got to pay for a lot of other stuff soon. So you're taking from a pot of money that I have to think about how it's being allocated in the future. And that means that I need to start seeing some of that return in a time frame where I can start to make sure that my money is flowing appropriately. I need to make sure that the cash flow is good. How do I do that? So in order to help your CFO understand the benefit of what you're doing, you got to think about your bottom line impact a month at a time. And it could be a week or a day or whatever, like whatever your time frame is, but a month at a time is pretty typical, could be a quarter. How many months is it going to take you before you pay back your CFO? That's the question. Okay, CFO, you're giving me money. I'm starting to pay you back. I'm starting to pay you back in 1 month, 3 months, a year. And typically it's 1 month, 3 months, a year from when? That's going to come back to be an important part of this discussion too. So if you give me money now, starting at some time, I'm going to start paying you back after that time period starts. Here's a payback period calculation. We know from our prior example, we're saving almost $1,200 monthly. That turns into $140,000 annual savings. Don't worry about annualizing it, because when it gets plugged into the formula, it can be monthly too. You'll see the math. It's all good. Let's say you spend about $10,000 on startup costs, right? So because we've been talking about what it would take in the ROI calculation, I said, how much is it going to cost for that team? How much do I need to have that team enabled? But there's other startup costs that need to happen as well, right? So there's the $10,000, let's say, of startup costs, and there's going to be $1,300, $1,400 annually of payment for that team. That's $11,380 worth of year one costs. This isn't quite right, because the startup costs probably cover a much larger team. So it's the $115, that $10,000 gets amortized across all of the people you're doing this with. But whatever, let's keep it really simple. I'm just enabling this one team for right now, and it cost me $10,000 to get them started. My payback in months is going to be the cost that I'm engaged in and the monthly benefit, right? The annual benefit divided by 12 months, right? That's the payback period. So I know what the cost is. That's at $11,380 that you see year one costs, and the annual benefit is that $140,000 divided by 12, $11,666, right? If you do the math on that, it works out to be just under 1 month. Your payback period is just under 1 month. So what really matters then is how quickly you can start that clock ticking on that 1 month. And that, I think, is why so many people are excited about the LLM-based fast fill technology that Fulcrum's talking about. Because when you consider that the payback period has a starting point, you got to think about when that starting point is. Sometimes there are reports that have to be written because you're not going to, this is something you're doing for a client, and therefore until the reports are written, you're not going to get this to be useful for your clients, which means there's no payback. No matter how good the rest of the technology is, there's no payback until the reports get written, right? So where is that your starting point? Is your starting point after the training is done for your field team, if that's important? Is it after you've served your first customer? And then finally, is it after the AI model building is done? And that's really the kicker here, right? Is that the closer we can bring all of the benefit of AI to today, then the earlier we start that payback period, which means the faster, the more easily we're able to justify making this kind of an effort. So we need to be very realistic in our assessment of when that payback period starts. But when we are realistic in that assessment and we can push it as close to today as possible, that is a massive benefit for our companies. So here is the payback formula again. So really, I said it was cost divided by your monthly benefit. It's actually cost divided by monthly benefit plus the number of weeks or months or whatever it is to complete onboarding, prep work, and so on. And of course, that AI model building. All right, so we've talked a little bit about financials. The last major topic for this before we get to your questions is just why having field-based AI requires a platform, and that platform needs to be purpose-built to launch innovation. This is kind of the reason for being for what Fulcrum does. So yes, it's focused on what we do for companies, but I'm here not because it's a great message, but because I believe this. This is what we do for companies and why you would need a product like Fulcrum in order to help launch your AI innovations. I want to start just by noting that office and field teams live very different lives. For one thing, office organizations have decades of experience with pre-built applications that they can use to run their enterprise and platforms that support processes that integrate these applications, that standardize processes in and among them. And I say that support them like it's for the office, but we all know that that's really where IT gets involved too, right? So there's IT working on everything from versioning the individual applications that are out there to helping build out those processes to helping people manage change through those processes and doing a lot of integration, of course, at the same time. So that's the office. And what the office applications do is the manufacturers of those office applications, what they do is they say, by the way, we need a mobile application that solves our problem. So in IBM Maximo, in an asset management situation, they say, okay, well, Maximo Mobile is going to be the thing that the field uses to collect stuff for Maximo. The only problem is all of these organizations do that. So what you end up is a lot of these bolt-on applications get deployed out to field people who then have to know a lot of different things. They have to understand which app they're supposed to use for which part of the process. And if the field wants to do something to help them, two possibilities. One is I want to add in a safety check before I inspect this particular pump that I'm working on. Well, how am I going to get Maximo, which doesn't care about that safety process, to incorporate all of that into it, right? That's something that they're going to have a hard time manipulating that bolt-on application because it's not really designed to do that. It's designed to do what Maximo wants it to do. You love Maximo, great product, but it's focused on office requirements for asset management. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to mean that there's a lot of different versions of things that have to get taken care of. So you look at IT now saying, okay, well, for these iPads need to be at this level for this bolt-on app and need to be at that level for this bolt-on app. And so which version of the bolt-on app becomes complicated really fast. So this is not a good solution, and people have recognized that repeatedly. And one of the things they do in order to fix it is they say, IT, you've done such a great job doing this for the office. We'd like you to do the same thing for the field. And so they start the processes that are necessary in order to get field work like this done. And they will start by doing a lot of integration work, which, you know, looks complicated, but anybody who's done it knows it's actually a lot more complicated than that. And by integrating all of this technology, they are then build apps that they can deploy out to the field. Notice they're not frequently integrating the field technology that's necessary, the sensors, the drones, the GIS capabilities, whatever. They're not doing that necessarily as well as they could because they don't understand that part of the business as much. And it's at this point that we have to pause and say, are we really making things better? If the thing that you're giving the field is now something that you have to get into the IT queue in order to add something. Yes, I'm going to add that safety check, for example. Well, if I'm going to do that and it goes into the IT queue and that means it gets in the middle of all these other priorities and it could take months to get done, that's not the level of flexibility that I need. So it's probably not going to give me the return on investment that I need because I'm investing all this time and money in building these apps out, but I'm not able to actually affect the changes that I want. I'm not able to properly digitally transform field activities. And that means that your TCO might actually be higher because people in the field, if they can't get what they need, of course, they're gonna revert to paper. They always do, right? So that's the one technology that will never fail them. They will revert to paper and you know, type things into spreadsheets or whatever they have to do to make that happen, which means your TCO in certain cases might go up because you're paying for all the integration and all the apps and you're still doing stuff with paper. The field guy is out there still having issues a little bit because although it's less complicated, it's still complicated. And ultimately, you're still not connecting into those field tech capabilities that they really need to make their jobs even more efficient. That's why there's been an emergence of field data and process platforms. And I'll be the first to say that I'm not the only one. Fulcrum is not the only company doing this. There are others out there. And no, you shouldn't buy from them. You should buy from us because I'm a marketing guy for this company. But I think if you look at what we're trying to accomplish, this market has emerged because there's been a recognized need to provide capabilities to the field that have not been available to the field before. We need in the field the same kind of capabilities that are already there for the office. And it needs to support our unique requirements. It needs to support especially GIS like ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. It needs to support the ability to call field tech. You know, recent case for us was we needed to integrate the sensor from a drill and a fracking machine into Fulcrum so it would be able to get that temperature as part of the inspection process for that. You need to be able to do that, and frankly, most office-based systems don't understand how to do that kind of thing. Now, Fulcrum is highly differentiated in this area. We're extremely good at connecting to all of the different kinds of systems you need, whether they are office-based systems or office platforms, things like Microsoft Power Automate. A lot of our clients use that. Or whether it's analytical tools, we need to be able to integrate with those things. But we also integrate with the field tech, with the sensors, with all of the things that most people don't think about, but that the field thinks about all the time. And so Fulcrum is the platform that best completes the field's digital transformation. If you go out and do a comparison, we're very happy to take a look at that comparison, and you will find that we are very good in certain cases. And if can find something else that fully solves your problems, then maybe that's a better choice for you. But we are very confident that we are the best platform for field digital transformation, and it's necessary to have that platform in order to do the things that we're talking about with AI, like you've seen today. With that, I'd just like to wrap it up and we'll open the floor for questions. We are running a little bit on time. Sorry, I'm going on too long. If you're interested in what we're doing here, some of what you've seen today is not yet productized. It will be productized in the fourth quarter of this year, 2024. So if you'd like to be involved, get in touch with Katie Briggs and Adrian Zuniga. Their email addresses are here. They have asked me specifically to provide you an opportunity to give your opinions to them. So if you use either that bit.ly link or snap that QR code, then you'll be taken to a form, a Google form, that will bring together information about your usage and what you're interested in and that sort of thing. So please do feel free to give us those opinions. I will stay on this slide for a few minutes while we start to do Q&A. And let's go start taking a look at what kind of questions have come in during this presentation. By the way, there's still plenty of time to add more questions. Oops. I don't know why that popped out. So, all right, I don't know why that popped out. Give me 1 second. Oh, now I understand, but I can't do anything about it. All right, so Kurt, can you do me a favor? and give us some of the questions that are there. I'll leave this up for another couple seconds, and then I'll come back and do the questions. I can't do it while I'm on full screen right now. That's what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Let me, I'll just ask these in the order that they were presented. So the first one is Fulcrum built more for Android or iOS?
It's built for both because of the different capabilities and implementation timelines within those ecosystems. Sometimes features will come out at different points, but we're always, they are basically feature compatible. Fulcrum as a whole is built for both ecosystems, and we're very careful to make sure that everything we do, if it doesn't do it today, it has an eye on doing it for the other ecosystem in the very, very near future.
With the dictation, how is it with filtering out noise? Like if you're in a loud pump station or a loud traffic area?
Zach, do you have an answer to that? I haven't tried that before myself.
We're doing field testing on that, and I don't have a great answer because there's a lot of variables there, but it should. It probably depends on the quality that the device gets on the voice input. So it should function, but we're going to be testing it. Don't have a great answer for that one. Sorry.
What if there are required fields, but the AI can't figure it out?
So you can always fill out the form exactly, the way that everyone has been filling it out. So if the AI doesn't figure it out, you just enter it manually, and you can scroll through the form and fill it out however you want, or you can run the dictation again and fill it out again and use it in a conversational way.
Can you fill in a caption on a photo with dictation?
I would.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that. That's not it doesn't do that in our POC, but that's something we can certainly look at. I think it's a great idea.
And naturally, you can use the voice to text on your phone to do that as an individual step, even if that's not in the actual, even if that's not in it right now.
Is the AI building instructions / capability for the motor tag autofill process of the current Fulcrum software license? I believe they're asking if you can do that currently.
So the demo that we showed today is a future capability we're releasing it later this year. So we're targeting end of year to have a version of the audio dictation, and then the photo fast fill will happen after that. Hopefully that answers the question.
If you're interested in, I can see this now. That was for Hal. If you're interested in doing that right now and shaking it out with us over these last couple of months before it becomes production, please feel free to reach out to the product managers here, Katie and Adrian, and see if we can work with you on that. There's a lot of variables in who we can work with in order to get that done effectively, but reach out to Katie and Adrian and see if we can get you in the queue.
There's another question about labeling photos with the dictation. So that seems to be a popular feature. Here's another one. Could you fill out repeatable objects, say with text fields within with dictation?
Yes, we're going to make sure that the feature that we put out and productize supports repeatables, and you can fill out a complete inspection with the dictation.
Is there a success percentage of the form filling? Have we measured that yet?
We're in the process of measuring that. Again, this is still in early access with the dictation fast fill, so we don't have any data to share yet, but as soon as we get through our early access program and get closer to release, we might have some data to share in terms of time saved and success that our customers who are already using it are having with it.
We're looking at that, like we said, over the course of 2 months or so to get that process completed, which means we should be having more data from real users in the field actively using this, and we'll get more information about that as we go. Adrian, you're probably on right now if I know you, and there are 3 comments in here talking about captions on photos. So it looks like that's a definite data point for the product team coming out of this. Thank you all very much for that kind of input. We are hitting the top of the hour right now, and I think we basically hit all the questions, so that's phenomenal. If you didn't get your question asked, please go ahead and ask it or fill out the survey that comes at the end of this session, and we will come back to you with more information. If you'd like to join that POC, like I said, you can reach out to the people over there or on the screen, or also add that to it. And finally, there are a couple of handouts here that you can go and click on in the interface. I should have mentioned that earlier, sorry, but you can go and check those out as well if you'd like more information on some of these requirements. Zach, anything else you've got to add?
No, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you everyone for your time. You could have done other things today, and we appreciate you spent the time with us. Thank you very much and have a great day.